Well, welcome back to the Big Saturday Show. Not a very happy holiday season for Democrats so far. Joe Biden's poll numbers continue to sink. A new NPR Marist poll shows Biden with a 42% approval rating, and even Politico is admitting, quote, the Democratic brand is broken. The infrastructure bill just isn't fixing it. Now, if you listen to the ladies of The View, they happen to have a different opinion. Let's listen to a clip from their show recently.
He's only been in for 9 months.
And he's gotten so much done.
I just want to say, do you want to tell folks
I mean, I
what
don't
he's
want to
gotten
bore
done?
people with the list, but the list is long.
Yeah, but bore him.
All right, he signed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill. He got a $1.9 trillion COVID relief plan passed in March. It was a little messy, but he ended the war, a 20-year war in Afghanistan. He canceled student loan debt for more than 300,000 Americans with disabilities.
Yes.
He returned the U.S. to the Paris Climate Accord. Thank you. We're all in this together, baby. Unemployment is down, very much down.
Yeah.
And you can't blame the guy for the pandemic. If you don't wear a mask, then I blame you.
All right. Laura, to you first. Despite what the ladies say, we know that Americans do actually have a lot to complain about right now. There's inflation, there's rising gas prices, problems with the pandemic, lots of things going on, problems at the border, as we know. Do you think President Biden can do something to turn these poll numbers around?
Well, there's a lot he could do to turn them around. Obviously, they just don't want to do them because it was what Donald Trump was actually doing. What a segment to hear, though, from the ladies of The View. My goodness, the long list. I mean, it is so funny to listen to how their writers gave that to them. Look, we know that the first order of business for Joe Biden and the Democrat Party was shutting down the Keystone XL pipeline. Under President Donald Trump, we were energy independent. We were a net energy exporter. We exported more oil than anyone else in the entire world from the United States. And now, because of what Joe Biden did on day one in office, look at gas prices. Look at the struggle for so many Americans just day to day to get around right now. They are soaring. He has tapped into the SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which it was totally unnecessary to do. But there is a lot, Anita, he could do to fix these problems. But again, they are never going to do it because basically it seems like their policy from day one is to do the opposite of what Donald Trump wanted to do. Donald Trump had a closed southern border. We were secure as a nation. Of course, Joe Biden, the Democrats, wide open. We see the disaster that has become. I also love the ladies of the View saying, oh, COVID is not Joe Biden's fault. They were happy to tell you it was Donald Trump's fault when he was president, though. So the whole thing is ridiculous. There's a lot that could happen that could move the country back in the right direction. But we know that the progressives, the far left radicals who run the Democrat Party and by and large are running America right now, are never going to let those things happen.
Yeah, a lot of things were your father-in-law's fault, right, during his administration.
Oh.
Raymond, you know, there is talk. Anything and everything. Raymond, there is talk, maybe rumors just at this point, that President Biden is searching for a different running mate to replace Kamala Harris, someone that would help his poll numbers. What have you heard, and who do you think would be a good choice for him?
Well, forget the bottom of the ticket. What about the top of the ticket? I mean, as people, you saw those polls where a majority of Americans, I believe it's in the 60 percentile, are deeply concerned about Joe Biden's mental health and his overall health. I mean, Kamala Harris is no doubt a drag on the ticket. The woman's down at 28% approval in some polls. But Joe Biden is himself unsteady. He causes chaos wherever he moves in the world. And you see it on the international stage. You see it at home. And I love the ladies of The View. All they can recite in that litany of accomplishments are drunken spending bonanzas by the Democrats. I don't know how that helps inflation. You saw 39% of Americans believe inflation is the most important issue because it's the thing affecting the most. And the Democratic answer is, go pound sand. We're going to pass another big spending bill in the trillions of dollars, which will raise corporate taxes, passed on to you, Mr. and Mrs. America, universal pre-K. We're going to be, a corporate tax increase on top of marriage penalty and a child tax credit for illegal aliens. I don't think this is what America wants. So it doesn't matter who's on that ticket. With that policy, they're going to lose.
All right. Well, Tyrus, let me get you in there. What about the top of the ticket, Joe Biden himself? You're a man of the people. What would you advise President Biden to do to appear more presidential?
The only way that he could save his presidency would be, and I'm not saying this as a Republican, I'm saying this as a parent and American citizen, is to step down. I think he is a moderate, but despite what we're already seeing as far as the aging process and the issues he's having with getting his message across when he does speak, is that he is in a progressive, he has surrounded himself, he made a deal with the devil with a progressive agenda, he has a progressive staff. You know, they basically are going after him every chance they get. They don't support him. His VP goes out of her way not to do things he has asked her to do. So this entire ticket is going, there is no re-election. At this point, only thing he can do is possibly hold on to his legacy of his years of service for this country. To do the best thing for this country is that this was a mistake, and for him to move on and look into possibly firing her before he goes. But this entire administration has been, and to quote a former president, a disaster in terms of not listening to the American people, and we're seeing that. I mean, it's when you hear things like it was a little messy. People died in Afghanistan, ma'am.
Right.
People fell out of planes. Soldiers were killed. People, how dare you say it was a little messy? My man cave is a little messy. You understand? That is the problem with the elite telling us how the world really is.
All right, well, we got a while to go before 2024, so we'll see how he handles the rest of his term.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.